everyone, welcome to Philosophy Smash with Henry. Today we're thinking about colour. We're all familiar with colours. There's red fire engines, blue skies, and green grass. But what is colour? This is a bit more puzzling than it initially looks. At first you might think that, well, colours are just normal features of objects, like the fire engine is red, the grass is green. But then we know that different people sometimes see colours differently. Some people might see a dress as black and blue. Other people might see the very same dress as white and gold. And we know that other animals like dogs and bees also see colours differently from us. For these reasons, some scientists think that colour is actually not out there in the objects in the world, but it's somehow created by our brains. Some people say that colour is almost like a trick that our minds play on us. But that's quite a strange view, because if colours are all in our minds, then surely that means that things like fire engines and grass don't actually have any colour at all. And doesn't that look wrong? Take a second and think about this. Is colour something that is in objects? And if that is what it is, then how do we explain how people see colours differently? Or is colour made up in our brains? Take a second and decide what you think. Well, with me to help answer this question is Dr. Laura Gow. Laura is a philosopher at the University of Liverpool, and she's an expert in the philosophy of colour. Laura, welcome to Philosophy Smash with Henry.
Thanks for inviting me, Henry. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, Laura, I'm going to give you 45 seconds to answer the question, what is colour? And we are timing you. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
Henry, so I'm going to break the rules, and instead of answering your question, I'm going to give your listeners 3 options and let them decide what they think colours are. Right, so like you said, we know that different animals experience colours differently from each other and from us. For example, most mammals can't see red. So your dog, say, will have a very different experience from you when looking at a fire truck. We also know that many birds can see ultraviolet light. So given this variation in colour experiences, what should we say is going on? So here's option 1. We could just insist that the fire truck is red and all the other animals that see it differently are just wrong. Option 2, we could say that in fact, objects have lots more colours than we thought. So the fire truck is red, but it's also the colour it appears to your dog and the colour it appears to be to all the other animals. Option 3, we could say that objects don't have colours at all. So different objects reflect light in different ways, but it's our brains that interpret these different wavelengths of light as colours, and the brains of other animals interpret this light differently from us. So strictly speaking, the colours we experience are somehow generated by our brains and are not out there in the world at all.
That was fantastic, Laura, but I'm afraid that it was 77 seconds long. So yeah, you didn't cram it into 45 seconds.
Sorry, Henry.
Okay, cool. So you mentioned the idea that objects don't really have colours, but rather that our brains interpret light that bounces off objects, and then our brain makes colours up. Could you explain what you mean by that?
Sure, yes, it does seem strange to think that the colours we experience might actually be somehow created by our brains instead of being out there in the world. But we do sometimes experience colours that we know aren't really out there. And this gives us reason to believe that the brain is capable of doing this. It's capable of generating our colour experiences. So have you ever been staring at a bright image on a screen or at a coloured light, and then when you look away, say at a white wall, you experience a bright coloured patch and it kind of moves around with the movement of your eyes? So these are called afterimage experiences. And when we're experiencing an afterimage, we're seeing a colour that isn't really there. And this tells us that our brain is capable of causing colour experiences, even when we know there's nothing in the world that has that colour.
So it's the idea that we know our brain can give us colour experiences when there aren't really those colours in the world. So maybe it does that for all the colours we ever see? Is that the idea?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So a lot of people might wonder why this is a question for philosophy. So you're a philosopher, but someone might say, well, surely this is a question for physics, it studies light, or for biology, which studies our brains. Why is it a question for philosophy?
It's a good question, and it's interesting that you ask that. There are quite a few different philosophical theories about what colours are, and all of these theories agree on all those scientific facts. So everyone agrees that objects that appear to us to be different colours reflect different wavelengths of light, and everyone agrees that this light enters our eyes and gets processed by our brains. But even though everyone agrees on these facts, there are still all these different theories about, what we should say about colour. Those three options I mentioned earlier, they're all compatible with our knowledge from physics and biology. So this suggests that what we have here is a question that can't be answered by science, and so we need philosophy.
So, if there was just one idea that you'd like people to walk away with today, what do you think it would be?
Right, so the idea that grass is green, it seems so unbelievably obvious, right? And yet, from our discussion today, we've seen that it's not clear cut at all. We have very good reasons for thinking that the way the world really is could be quite different from how we experience it. So, I guess the most important thing we can learn from thinking about colour is that we should always be willing to question our assumptions, even when they seem really, really obvious. We shouldn't assume that how things seem to us is how they really are. Maybe how things seem to us is just a matter of our perspective.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Laura, and thanks everyone, and keep thinking.